think Everton, there was a noticeable sort of lack of fluency and cohesion, which had been in abundance before the international break. But then the 2-week break, when obviously there was no Merseyside derby because of Liverpool's Carling Cup final commitments, just took a little bit of the wind out of Everton's sails, and arguably didn't really help them in terms of their preparations. Key men like Stephen Pienaar had flown back to South Africa in the middle of last week to play a friendly in Durban, and then flown back and then got to London, and you could tell that Stephen Pienaar was not quite at his energetic, sparkling best, and the same can be said for quite a few of the first team. On a difficult surface at Loftus Road, it's another of these pitches like the Wigan's DW Stadium that doubles as a rugby ground for Wasps, and the actual playing surface was pretty poor, really, quite bobbly, and that didn't help Everton's game either. So while on the surface of it you thought Everton were going to go there in top form and be strong candidates for 3 points, in the end they got what they deserved, and QPR actually played very well and could arguably feel a bit hard done by with just a point themselves.
Person who seems to attract a lot of the headlines, as he always does, was Royston Drenthe. What did you make of his performance?
Well, it seems to be kind of always the way with Royston, that it's he'll do something brilliant and then he'll do something sort of that will have fans tearing their hair out, and David Moyes certainly frustrated. He's got real kind of mercurial ability to do stuff on the ball and to score goals that not many Everton players have at the moment in the midfield. And his goal was a perfect example of that, sort of 30 yards out, rocket of a shot. Paddy Kenny didn't have a chance. And then 5 minutes later, he goes and commits to a challenge that he probably, in hindsight, would have thought he wasn't going to win on Adel Taarabt near his own area. Gave away a silly free kick, and QPR got straight back in the game. If Everton had been able to hold on until half-time, 1-0 against QPR, a team that had lost, I think, 6 of the last 8, then it could have been a different story. But it's always the way with Drenthe. He just has to develop some more discipline on the pitch and more sort of concentration, focus on his game. Having said that, though, whilst not being too harsh on him, it's interesting that what he was trying to do when he fouled Taarabt was defend. And one of the criticisms of him from Moyes and the fans has been that he's too slack on the defensive side of his game. So you could argue that he was actually trying to address that and track back and do things like that. And if it's not it doesn't come naturally to him, it maybe will take him time to get to that point where he can tackle more cleanly. So I think on balance, I still understand, says in today's paper, he's still a player worth having, just for the unexpected that he can produce out of nowhere.
Okay, I mean one thing that's seemingly is more expected now is an improved performance from Everton after going through tough times around the turn of the year. Busy month coming up for the Blues. How do you think they'll fare?
It is a busy month, and I think David Moyes sort of hinted at it on Friday at his press conference when he said often Everton kind of thrive when the backs are into the wall and there's a ridiculously busy schedule, and certainly what we've got in March. The games are going to come thick and fast, and big games as well. You've got Spurs coming up on Saturday and pitch straight into the Merseyside derby, and then the biggest of them all from Everton's point of view, the quarter-final against Sunderland. Good news this morning that Sunderland are going to be missing 2 of their key men now. Lee Cattermole, who got his second yellow card in the Time Weir derby yesterday, and I think he'd already been booked so many times this season, so he'll actually miss the next 4, which will include the Everton game. And Stefan Sessegnon, one of their really impressive performances this season as well, was sent off, so he'll miss the quarter-final. So that's a bit of a boost, and I think Everton have, once they get a week of training, no international commitments to disrupt that, can hit the ground running again, hopefully flourish. But the only thing, note of caution ahead of the Merseyside derby, getting ahead of ourselves, but it's worth noting that while we might benefit from Sunderland losing key men, Everton got to be careful with their discipline in that game, because the last thing they would want is to lose anyone to a red card ban for the derby. But that's looking a bit far ahead, and in the short term I think they'll be looking at the month and thinking, bring it on.